wanted to make a little comment and a bit of a more lighthearted question, considering the nature of tonight's talk.
Very quickly.
Which is very informative, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I assume that all of these generals and such and all of these government aides that are all in charge of this nuclear football and all this nuclear ordnance, I would assume generally that they're part of the old guard from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so I wanted to ask, with spending over $1 trillion to redo the nuclear arsenal, is this one of the biggest retirement sort of pension scandals we've ever seen since the F-22 scandal with Lockheed Martin?
Professor?
Well, I think that's an interesting way to look at it, but the point is that it's Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex back in the 1950s.
He sure did.
And, this is what we see. It's well and alive and thriving. I thought when you were asking your question, you were going to ask whether or not these generals and all these people were aware of the information that I've been talking about. And I want to say emphatically that as far as I can tell, they're not. I've had a couple. I worked at the United Nations and testified, working with Switzerland, New Zealand, and Chile at a number in Geneva and New York about the effects of nuclear weapons. And I was able to question a couple of times representatives. The best example was when there was a joint presentation of the U.S. and Russia made a joint presentation in 2010 at the Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference about the New START Treaty. And I had a pass, so I got in and I sat down, and they didn't know who the hell I was. I think I sat with the France placard in front of me, so they took my question, and I'm sure they didn't like it. But they had the chief negotiators of START from the U.S. and Russia there. It was Rose Goldmuller and Anatoly Antonov. And so I asked both of them, I said, are you aware of the recent studies that predict that the detonation of just a fraction of your strategic nuclear weapons would create like a global nuclear famine that could cause most people on the planet to starve? And they both said, oh, no, we're not familiar with those.
My goodness. Professor, I can only hope that this show, which is recorded, believe me, will be passed around, and that a lot of people will get to hear it before it's too late. We've got to go. Show's over.
Thanks so much for having me on, Art. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on and scaring us to death. Have a great night, Professor.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.